Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Recovery Allied Training hosted by Fentanyl. I see already a lot of people are starting to come on in. People are sharing their recovery dates, sharing their locations. I love to see it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Um, well, of course, we're here for National Recovery Month. National Recovery Month is observed annually in September to raise awareness about substance use disorders, to promote recovery efforts, and to celebrate recovery in all its forms. We know recovery comes in a number of different ways, and we're here to celebrate every single pathway. Um, and so I thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank everybody that's logging in. I want to thank everybody that shared this on Facebook and YouTube. Much appreciated. I'm glad you're here. And I want to respect your guys' time. So I'm going to just share a couple um, things that we have in the works as well. Along with this, for Recovery Month, we're also doing something a week from today, which is called 6 Minute Stories, right? 6 minute stories. We're actually going to have some people join us and share their stories in 6 minutes. And the reason we pick 6 minutes is so we can get as many stories as we can in a short period of time, about an hour long. If you're interested in sharing your story, please put your information in the chat, your email, and I'll reach out to you and we can get you to share your story as well. That would be great if we had some more. So, welcome. And for you folks that are local, I have a couple local events. We're based out of Miami, in Miami, Florida. So we have a couple of events coming up. We have Save a Life Day coming up. We have two events actually. One is at on Thursday. So we're going to be giving out Narcan to all the students, faculty, and staff. Um, and then we're going to do it again on that Friday. This time we're going to do it at the Government Center. And share as much information as we can and give out Narcan. Um, Another event that we have coming up is overdose prevention training on September 25th, which is, I believe, is Thursday at the North Dade Regional Library. Um, and so I see a lot of people from different states. We have something for you too. So if you guys are interested in having the overdose prevention training, we can do that online. We'd be happy to do that for anybody in any state and share the information. And we could get you connected with the resources so you guys can get Narcan nearest to you. We have a lot of partners in different states, so we can help you figure out where's the nearest place to get that. And then last but not least, if you are in Miami, on November 15th, we're doing Recovery at the Park. And so this is a way to celebrate recovery in all its forms. We're going to have a bunch of speakers from different pathways, and we're having a local organizations partner with us. If you're in Miami, you want to partner with us and you want to join us for this, please let me know. Reach out to us. I'm going to put information at the bottom, right? That's our website, our uh, email, and our social media. All right, enough of that. Let me check the chat, make sure. All right. I love seeing this. People from Kentucky, Miami, um, Georgia in the house. Awesome. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. So let's get right to it. I definitely want to make sure, respect your time. If you have questions, please put them in the chat. And then, here we go. Right. Here we go. So a little bit about our organization. Fentanyl is a nonprofit organization where we focus on harm reduction, and our main mission is to save lives through education and breaking stigma and providing uh, Narcan harm reduction supplies. We do street outreach, we do overdose prevention training, as well as recovery allied training like this one. We do resource linkage. If we don't provide the service, we're going to link you to that service, whether you have insurance or you don't have insurance. Um, so with this training, we just want to demonstrate that recovery is a long-term process. Not every pathway is the same. We're going to confront some of the myths, and then we're going to convey how important it is to have empathy and openness in helping people find recovery. So first question to you guys, and you guys put it in the chat. What did the communication about substance use look like in your family? Was there a conversation? Was there no conversation? What did it look like? Um, you can just write it in the chat, and I'll take a few of the answers there. But everybody's different. But this is a huge reason as to why the way we see recovery, the way we see substance use, um, is how we saw it as family, and how, if there was a conversation or we saw a direct hand. Let's see. All right. As I wait for some questions, so I know for my family there was no conversation. Really, there was no conversation until later on. Right. Kim saying there was nothing at all. Uh, right. People that have substance use are people that are homeless. Right. That's from Chris. Right. Yeah. Yeah. He drinks. uh, Absolutely. And so yeah, so some of the things saying there was no conversation. People that use are people that are using are homeless, right? And so we see a lot of stigma attached to what we learn, because there is no conversation, or because we get the information from um, peers, right? In school, we get the information from other sources, right? And so that's how stigma develops, and then we kind of find out later on that it is a little different. But this is the main reason. When I work in treatment, and when I pose this question to my clients, 99% of them didn't. There was no conversation about substance use, right? There's no conversation, and drinking was okay, but drugs were bad, right? As another thing that is common. All right. So I want to get into some of the risk factors, right? These are some of the things we don't realize when we're young, right? Or we don't realize that there's some risk factors. This is good information, of course, later on in life, but also if you have young people, if you have people in your family and they have some of these risk factors, it's easier for prevention than it is to actually do treatment. So if we can prevent some of this, absolutely want to do so. Um, and so some of the risk factors the biggest one is trauma, having something specifically in childhood, right? And we're going to talk about adverse childhood experiences, and what trauma means to me could be not traumatic to somebody else. Trauma is different to different people, and affect people in different ways. The environment that somebody grew up in is a huge factor. Was there both parents in the family? Did they have food on the table? Did they have their basic needs met? Right? Did they have friends? Did they have peer influences? Right? These are some things that come into play. Of course, there's a biological predisposition, right? If there is family members that have mental health or substance use issues, the likelihood of developing that increases dramatically. Um, and then the last one is the age of onset, right? The younger that somebody starts experimenting and trying, the higher the risk of developing a substance use disorder. And the people with a severe substance use disorder, 90% of those folks started using their adolescent years. Why is that such a big issue? Is because when you're an adolescent, you're in your teenage years, you're not fully developed, right? And you're more focused on rewards over consequences, right? And that's kind of how it stays if you start using at that age of adolescence. And so that's why it's so important to if we can extend that for people, and they have these age limits, right, for drinking and smoking and all these things, but it should be into the upper 20s when it's really the risk goes down significantly. All right. So when we're talking about adverse childhood experiences, right? This was kind of discovered by accident. There's doctors Robert and Vincent Belletti, right? They were focused on helping women with their weight issues, right? And so along the way, they did their history, and they started asking these women questions, and a lot of them had traumatic issues as children, right? And they thought that, hey, well, since all these women are coming up with traumatic issues, maybe we can do research on this and see what this really means. And during their research, they found out a lot of things significantly can predict later issues, right? And so for ACEs for short, it's adverse childhood experiences, right? So the more of these um, issues that happen in childhood, the higher the likelihood of developing severe issues later. So psychological abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional neglect, physical neglect, the loss of a parent, mother treated violently, substance misuse, mental illness, criminal behavior, right? These are the 10 criteria that they were looking at. And the more that somebody had, the higher the likelihood of developing issues that include, which coming up here, right? Uh, when you had four or more of the ACEs, right, of the adverse childhood experiences, everything went up. 240% more likely to have developed hepatitis, 390% more likely to develop emphysema, 240% more likely to have STI, right? Twice as likely to become a smoker, 12 times more likely to have attempted suicide, 7 times more likely to have alcohol use disorder, and 10 times more likely to have injected illicit drugs, right? So these predictors, right? That's why we say we can do prevention more so than treatment, because if we can tap into these folks that are having these issues, right, and we can avoid these issues later on, right? Some more about it, right? Compared to 0 and to 7, you have 1 in 16 people smoke, but when you get to 7 or more ACEs, it's 1 in 6, right? 1 in 69 develop an alcohol use disorder. When you get to 7 or more ACEs, you get 1 in 6, right? So it's a common thread here, right? The more issues as a child, the more traumatic issues as a child, the more likelihood of developing issues later. And it's not just mental health or substance use. You see actually physical issues, right? Heart disease, right? Um, uh, Respiratory issues, right? These things happen later on because there's a direct correlation with what happens as a child. All right, so let's answer one of these questions right here. Um, you are meeting a friend for a lunch on a Saturday afternoon. They show up intoxicated and order several beers during the meal. As you consider it, you realize you have rarely spent time with that friend when they were not intoxicated. How do you respond? Right. So you're having lunch with a friend, and you notice that the person is intoxicated, and the person is regularly intoxicated, right? And you want to know how you can respond or help, or what would you do in that scenario? Um, I'll give you some time to put something in the chat there. Maybe you've actually dealt with this, right? If some of you are in recovery or some of you work in the field, I guarantee you have something similar happen. So let's see what you guys have here. All right, it's taking a little while to get some of the responses, but something you want to consider. Uh, All right, we have one from lady here. Says, I would get mad at my friend, which now I know that does not help at all, right? Well, maybe if you're in recovery, you've been that person on the other end, and people get mad at you, right? And how many times has that really, you know, helped us? When people get mad at us, it kind of leads us um, to distance ourselves or to use more. Right? Somebody in the chat here, Gilda says, try and diffuse the situation by bargaining. Ask them if they're okay. Let them, Christina, let them know there is no judgment, that you care about them and they matter. People need to feel seen. I love all this, right? Absolutely, right? Absolutely. Sharing that you care about them, whether they use or they don't use. Showing compassion is very important, right? And also, uh, Chris says to listen. Absolutely. How many times does this person maybe wanted to share? If they're choosing to share with you, be all ears and open to listen. Also, be mindful of how intoxicated they are. Are they going to remember the situation or not? Right. And then maybe coming back to a situation where you can meet them when they will be less intoxicated or not intoxicated at all is preferred, but we know how it is that when they're least intoxicated. Um, I love this. Randall says that my recovery is my responsibility. I would tell them I love them and let them know I can't be around them when they're intoxicated. And so, yeah, that's coming from point of view of somebody in recovery, right? So we got to protect their recovery at all costs, but also letting them know when they are ready, right? When they are ready, we're here to support you. We're here to take you to treatment or take you to a meeting, take you to wherever it needs to happen, right? But also respecting with boundaries and try not to take on too much, although easier said than done. And so these are some precursor questions that we're going to get to a little later, and so, some how tos and how we can respond. All right, so some information coming from the DSM-5, right? This is a diagnostic and statistical manual 5. So when somebody is diagnosed, they're going to get diagnosed from this manual, right? If you have a mental health issue, you're going to get diagnosed straight out of here. If you're going to treatment, they're going to diagnose you, right? Especially with insurance, they need this information, right? And basically, what this is the criteria they use to diagnose you, either with an alcohol use disorder or a substance use disorder, right? They're the same criteria for either or. You're just replacing the drug for whatever it is. If it's marijuana use disorder, opioid use disorder, it's very similar, right? So there's 11 criteria, and you really only need to have 2 to 3 to meet the the, the minimum requirements for a mild substance use disorder, right? And so when I work in treatment, and I actually present this to the clients, and they could kind of self-diagnose. But for those of you families or parents and or people that you haven't really come across this, these are what clinicians are looking at when they're trying to diagnose somebody that's going into treatment. Um, the first one being the amount. You're taking larger amounts than originally intended, right? I'm going out for one beer. I ended up staying for 5, 6 pitchers of beer, right? Control. I want to cut down, but I, I'm unable to quit. Right, the time, right? So the time I'm using, the time I'm recovering, and the time I'm obsessing over it, right? Cravings, right? The obsessive thoughts about it, experiencing craving, a strong desire to use the substance, right? Despite, knowing the harms. Obligations, right? So we're starting to miss some of our, responsibilities. Maybe we're missing work. Maybe we're being late to work. Maybe we're taking our kids late to school, or not taking them to school at all. We're late to pick them up. Um, losing jobs, right? These are some of the things that we're looking at. Social, that's when the family really starts noticing, friends start noticing, right? In that previous scenario, right, that was kind of the social, when people start noticing and telling you, hey, maybe you have an issue with the substance use, right? Um, that's 6. And then we have 7, activities, right? Things that we used to love to do, we're doing less of. Maybe we used to love to go to the movies, love to play sports. We're now doing less, or we stopped doing them entirely. Hazard, right? We're continuing to use the substance even during when there's um, physically hazardous situations, right? It's specific, a good example is driving under the influence, right? We're putting ourselves in dangerous situations. Harm, we're consistently using the substance despite knowing that it's harming our body, our physical condition. Tolerance, basically that means having to use more and more to get the same effect, right? I used to drink 3 beers, I get a nice buzz. Now I got to drink 6, 7 beers to get a nice buzz. And then the withdrawal, right? That's a huge one, which basically means when I stop the substance abruptly, that I have these physical conditions. For alcohol, could be shakes and sweating and there's something called the DTS, right, where you can actually start hallucinating. It's very important to note, right, for alcohol and for benzos like Xanax, the withdrawal can be deadly, right? So you always want to go to a professional, right? Go to a detox when you're getting off these medications or getting off alcohol, because it could lead to very serious issues, including death, right? And these are, when we talk about alcohol, right, we had to talk about something that's legal All right, and a lot of people forget that it is very dangerous when you're getting off of that, as opposed to opioids and meth and cocaine. Right, these are things um, uh, society sees as stronger, but the withdrawal very unlikely to be fatal. Right, so it is important if you are trying to detox off anything. I would highly recommend going to a medical detox because some of them can lead to some fatal issues. All right. So why are these substances so hard to get off of and so hard to stay off of is really the issue, right? Um, what we're dealing with high levels of dopamine, right? When we're looking at natural levels, right? We see food, great food, maybe hanging out with our family, having a good time with our family. Another natural, right? Sex is probably one of the most you can get from a natural act, right? And these are nanograms per deciliter, right? But you see how high it gets to, right? You see um, right over here where it gets to. Then you see some unnatural levels with the cocaine, right? You got opioids, heroin, methamphetamine. You're getting at absurd amounts of dopamine, right? And so when you're looking at early recovery and people are saying, "Hey, I don't feel good. I'm not finding pleasure out of um, anything," right? It's because we're depleted and we've been using dopamine, high levels of dopamine for so long, right? And what you need to consider is the type of drug that's been used, how long it's been used, right? And then how long have you been off of that drug, right? And so it's very important to note that if I've been using cocaine for 15 years and then I get somebody that comes to treatment and says, "Hey, I've been sober, I've been off of these drugs for 2 weeks, when am I going to feel good?" Right? Well, you got to give it a chance, right? If you've been using for so long, it's going to take some time, but it'll always come back to a normal state, but you got to give it some time. In some instances we need to take some medications to help us get to a level of to just to function, because if we don't have enough dopamine, we may not even be able to sit down in treatment and function, right? So we want to make sure that the treatment is effective. So you want to get people to sit down and be able to have enough dopamine in the system, so just so they can pay attention, right? And these are things. And so when also when I stress to the family, right, to because people think, hey, no, they don't want to stay sober, they don't want to do this, they want to, well, there's more to it. Yeah, you got to want to, yes, but remember we're up against a very strong uh, brain issue here, right? That affects our amount of dopamine, and but there is recovery and it is possible if we put the right tools and the right things in place. What's happening in our brain, basically, right? So you can see, disregard like the holes in the brain. What we're looking here is really the colors and the brain activity. Um, with the healthy brain, you see the dopamine activity and the brain activity nice and red. That's the dopamine activity. But you move to the middle, right? The meth user, he's been abstinent for 1 month, so he hasn't used in a month, and he's still not getting to a normal state of dopamine activity. And then you move to the 14 months later, they've been abstinent. You're finally seeing some activity get red, right? That's a dopamine activity, right? And so it's gonna take time, right? And so if you go to meetings, you will hear this saying that goes, "Don't leave before the miracle happens," right? Well, don't leave before the, exactly, because this is gonna take time to get back to a normal state, right? We've been using for how long? How strong are these drugs, right? We gotta consider all these things, but stick around. It does get better, and the dopamine activity will return um, at some point. And meth is more of an extreme case, because you saw the right how much there. That's probably the most out of any drug you're gonna see. But with cocaine, with alcohol, with weed, it's going to be a little less. Again, it's not going to happen overnight, but you definitely want to give it some time. Um, so post-acute withdrawal syndrome, right? Well, regular withdrawal is the substance leaving the body. But with post-acute withdrawal symptom, basically this is the after effects after the drugs have left your body. You're still seeing um, certain symptoms happening to you even after the substance has left your body. First one being anhedonia. Basically, what that means is that you're not finding pleasure out of everyday things. I'm not finding pleasure out of the food. I'm not finding pleasure out of watching movies or whatever I used to. I'm not getting that. Um, and so that's normal in early recovery, right? Anhedonia, you're not finding pleasure, right? It's going to take some time. Difficulty sleeping, memory loss, setting priorities, and then stress sensitivity. These are very common. At months into recovery, right? Maybe sometimes a year, but like it always comes to a normal state, right? It's important to note that this is normal. Post acute withdrawal syndrome is normal. Sometimes you're going to have some of these symptoms over time. Sometimes you'll get prescribed medications that'll help with this, um, but everyone is a case by case. I don't want to say everybody's the same. It's a case by case situation. Um, Best part is that it does get better. It's always going to get better, right? In this chart here, you can kind of see um, the first one being psychological distress. When you get into recovery, you're at the highest level of distress with the least amount of coping strategies to deal with it, right? Because you just removed alcohol and drugs from the situation, and now you're kind of facing life raw, right? You have nothing at the moment, right? But as time goes on, right, as time in abstinence and time in developing your recovery process, right, your quality of life, the happiness, the recovery capital, right, that's all going to um, start going up, right? Especially if you start going to some type of support meeting, you get some type of treatment, you talk to a therapist, you're going to develop coping strategies to deal with the psychological distress. But at the beginning, you're kind of at the most difficult part. But the best part about that, or the thing you should think about the most, is that it is only going to get better, right, as you stay engaged in the recovery process. All right, so let's get to recovery, right? So, what is recovery? Well, if you look at the dictionary, it's going to tell you this: a return to a normal state of health, mind, and strength, right? And that's, maybe it's in different issues that's a good term, but I don't like this one. I actually like the definition from SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Here's their definition: recovery is a process of change through which individuals improve their health and wellness, live self directed lives, and strive to reach their full potential. Right? That's beautiful, right? The goal here is to live a self directed life and reach your full potential, right? That's the goal of the recovery, no matter which way you get it. If you go to 12 steps, you go to church, you go wherever, you want to improve your life. That's the goal. Stop the consequences, improve your life. Boom. That's the goal right there. And so in some most cases it may include removing the drugs and alcohol, right? That's one of the main things, but it's not mutually exclusive, right? um, and I'm going to explain different pathways to recovery in different ways. But I used to think abstinence means recovery, and that's not necessarily the case. The recovery is the absence of consequences and living self-directed life and improving your life, right? That's the goal. We don't want no more problems. We don't want no more consequences. For me, I'll speak out loud, is it's complete abstinence, right? But it's not the case for everybody. um, so I'm here, right here, did you know, right? Well, right here I'm breaking everybody's anonymity. We got a lot of celebrities here. Now, I'm not breaking it. All of these people are open with their recovery. Um, some of them are more open than others, right? More notably, I think you see Charlie Sheen at the bottom, right? He just came out with a documentary and a memoir. We know him in when he was, going through it, and he was all over the news for his substance use. What is kind of cool now is that he's more open with his recovery now, and we're hearing about his recovery. But there's a lot of folks here, right, that are their most difficult times were in the public, and they were in the media for a lot of different things, and they should be in the media too and celebrated for their recovery too. And you look at Robert Downey Jr. We would remember. Um, close to 20 years ago, where he was in and out of jail and prisons, and now he's one of the most recognized celebrities, right, in the movies, right. So a lot of these folks are open with their recovery, and that's cool. Um, and these are celebrities. I simply show you celebrities because most of you guys are going to know who they are. But this happens every day. I see this on a regular basis where people find recovery and they're getting their families back and they're getting their license back and they're going back to school and they're doing all these things. And that's something to be celebrated as well, you know. And they're not celebrities, but this is something that we should absolutely recognize, because recovery is possible for the people, for everybody, with the right resources and the willingness. When they meet together, magic happens, right? So this guy's not a celebrity, but uh, this is actually me. I am a person in long-term recovery. For me, that means I haven't had a drink or a drug since September 12th, 2014. Prior to that, my life looked a little different than what the life I'm living right now. In and out of jail, multiple arrests, multiple DUIs, um, Baker Acts, suicide attempts. I was in the mental health psych wards. Um, zero accolades to my name. Right, that's really kind of the life I was living, was a cycle of just waiting for the next consequence to happen. I think the biggest consequence that I'll always share is the effect that I had on my family. I was the one using, I was the one drinking. They were the ones that were felt everything all the time. Um, they were not, they didn't have a substance use disorder, and so they were the ones that up all night waiting to see if I was coming home, um, bailing me out of jail, wondering if I was dead or alive, right? Though that's a huge consequence, and I didn't really see it at the time in my active addiction, or I would, try to drink to forget about the guilt I felt. Um, but luckily, through the help of other people, through the help of recovery, and the gift that was given to me by other people, I don't live that life anymore. I just celebrated 11 years um, a week ago. And so, um, as a direct result of my recovery process, um, I got to go back to school and get a few degrees. I got my associate, my bachelor's, and my master's degree, all in recovery, um, and that's all cool. But I think one of the biggest blessings is that I get to be a father to my two kids, who are now 12 and 9, who are never going to remember me in active addiction. Um, and that's the blessing, and I cannot take credit for all the things that are happening. What what did happen to me is that I accepted the help that was being offered to me, and it wasn't necessarily my family or my mother or my father were the ones that helped me. Although they wanted to help me the most and love me the most, the ones that helped me the most were the ones that understood me and that had similar stories. And that's how I got into recovery. You know, and so I share that simply because uh, recovery is a beautiful thing, and I think along, of course, my recoveries, I love to share about that, but I love to see when other people get into recovery, and see what they do with it, right? Because it's amazing to get into recovery and to stop the use of drugs and alcohol. But guess what? Well, what about what the potential they were talking about? The potential they were saying that we had. Once they start tapping into that potential, it's a beautiful thing. I love to see it, and everybody has their own journey, and I love to see that. All right, I'm gonna skip through this one, but here's some things that for those of you that are on this live and are not in recovery, I want you to imagine um, one of the most important roles that you play in life, right? Uh, it may be that you're a mother, a father, maybe that you're a teacher, a mentor, uh, whatever it may be that you feel like it's at the top of the list, that is your role as a person. And then imagine that that role is stigmatized, and then you can't tell everybody about it, even though it might be one of the most things that you're most proud of, that you can't tell people about it because you may be looked at differently, right? um, And that's what it's like to be in recovery, right? Recovery is one of the things I'm most proud of, right? And I'm blessed because I get to work in the field, and I don't really um, have the anonymity part, although I did in the beginning of my recovery. There's a lot of folks that have to live by that anonymity because of that stigma, that they may fear of not getting the job, they may fear not getting the promotion, they may fear, be looked at different, not invited to certain places because of their recovery status. And I've met so many people from different walks of life, to professors at the university, to police officers, to different ones that they cannot really share their recovery status, although it's one of the things they're proudest of. They can't share it because it may um, affect their life, in a negative way. And that's why we're here to change that. That's what the allied training is about. And so, what recovery could look like could be different from person to person. For some people, it means abstaining from all drugs, right? So for some people, it means seeking to live a life of emotional, physical, and spiritual wellness. Some people go to 12-step meetings. Um, some people seek help from mental health professionals. Some people take medication um, for their to be in recovery, right? So this means like Suboxone and methadone and Vivitrol, right? And if you need that to be in recovery, that is absolutely a blessing, right? Because the goal is to stop the consequences and to live a self-directed life. And I know tons of people that are taking MAT, medically assisted treatment, and they're doing amazing things in their life, right? And there is a huge stigma within different communities that you're not clean if you use this or that, right? And we should celebrate any pathway of somebody's improving their life. We should celebrate any pathway of people that are no longer getting into consequences, getting arrested, and they're able to be there for their families, and they're able to, move forward. Um, some people are of service to people, right? So helping the next person could be service in within the recovery community, could be of service outside, right? Just helping the next person helps their recovery. I'm going to share this real quick. Matt says, "My girlfriend is in recovery, and it is beautiful. I learned so much and love watching every milestone she hits, every little thing in life she notices. The fact that she, after 2.5 years, has her full self worth and a sober living woman back. I love that. I love it. That's exactly what it's about. Seeing that change. It's like living two lives. It's two lives because a lot of people won't believe the life we had before and how it is now because they're so different." Um, and then recovery is a process, not an event. Recovery is a personal journey, and it is the responsibility of the person. And if you want to learn about somebody's recovery, don't assume. Just ask that person, what the recovery, what it means to them, because it could be different. Everybody's different. What works for me may not work for somebody else, and I'm not ever going to push my recovery on somebody that it's not working for, right? But what I do encourage is for them to explore different pathways to find what does work for them. Um, let me see, Joyce. Changing the stigma is super important. That's why some of us live our recovery so loudly, so that those who can't know they have an ally and voice too. I love that, Joyce. Yeah, that's exactly why I live my recovery out loud, because how are people gonna know about this? How are people gonna know the change, right? That what is available, right? Appreciate that. All right, some of the myths, right? Some of these are kind of absurd, but like we see this all the time. People that abstain or are in recovery don't have fun, right? Well, actually, I'm not gonna lie. I thought that was the case when I first got into recovery. Oh no, I'm not gonna have fun anymore. It's kind of like a punishment. But over time and kind of seeing that definitely wasn't the case, and that I'm able to have fun and remember it and enjoy it, and these are things that are absolutely we have fun, and sometimes in most cases it's more fun than we ever had in active addiction. People in recovery aren't allowed to hang out with people who drink, right? Well, I'm here to say that that's not definitely not the case. I don't go out and hang out in bars and do the things I used to do, but I'm I got to live my life, and a lot of times or places serve alcohol, or I have friends that drink, but I'm not putting myself in situations that are danger to myself. But I definitely am around drinking on a regular basis. Maybe not as much around drugs, but drinking is unfortunately accepted by society, and it's pretty much everywhere. So we got to adapt to that. Everyone at parties drinks or uses drugs. Not necessarily, right? When I was drinking and drugging, guess at the type of parties I was at was yes with, but now that I'm not, I've been to plenty of functions that are alcohol free, right? There's none of that going on, and some of the best parties actually. Relapse is always a part of recovery. I do not adhere to that. Relapse can be part of recovery. I do not want to say that it always is a part of recovery, right? Because it's not. If you do have a relapse, you can learn from that and learn definitely with some steps that like what I could have done different and use that for the future. But for those folks that are in recovery now and they haven't had a relapse, I'm not here to say that you're going to expect a relapse. No, it can be a part of recovery, um, and you can learn from it, but it's not a requirement. You can spot somebody in recovery just by looking at them. Um, definitely not. Definitely not. They come in all shapes and forms. People in college are too young to be in recovery. Definitely not as well. I know tons of friends and people that are in college in recovery. They got something called collegiate recovery programs that help people get into recovery or to sustain the recovery while they're in college. So you're never too young or too old to find recovery. All right, so there's a lot of people in recovery, but not everybody is doing the same pathway, right? This is a stat from, I believe, John Kelly of Harvard, right? So what they posed was the question is, have you resolved a substance use or alcohol use issue within your life, right? And a lot of people, they have, right? There's upwards of almost 23 million people in the United States that are in recovery or have resolved an issue. And that's a lot of people, man. And when we look at the number of people in 12-step programs, that's around 3 million, 3.5 million, right? So it's more than just the 12 steps that are helping people. We love the 12 steps. We love AA and NA, but there's other pathways and people are finding it in a number of different ways. Um, this is also from John Kelly. Seeing that of the people that they polled, right? Um, Most of them are abstinent from all drugs, right? But some of them are only abstinent from the problematic drug, right? Whether it may be they were using opioids and now they drink or smoke. Um, some of them are not abstinent, right? Some of them have used mutual aid meetings. Some of them went to treatment. Some of them use medications, right? So there's no one size fits all, right? And because I am abstinent doesn't mean that I've tried to use the other ways. For me, I tried to, hey, maybe I could just smoke weed. Hey, maybe I could just do this. And for me, abstinence is the only thing that works for me. But I am my own person. I'm unique in my own way, right? And some people are similar to myself, but some people have other pathways, right? So I cannot knock them. Some of the pathways include 12-step meetings, right? That's the most common one, right? We see it all the time, see it in movies, but all based out of the Alcoholics Anonymous program, the 12-step program based on them. But we've seen so many different kinds of meetings from Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Debtors Anonymous, Sex Addicts Anonymous, right? There's so many different meetings that were created using the same 12 steps in the anonymous part of it. But there's also different kinds of meetings that are spiritual and religious in format, like Celebrate Recovery, which is a Christian-based program. Also use 12 steps, but it's a Christ-based program using the Bible uh, a way to help people in with addiction. Recovery Dharma, right, and Refuge Recovery. These are a Buddhist program, uses Buddhist principles and meditation to help folks. Then we got the non secular, right? These are stuff like Smart Recovery. Smart Recovery stands for self management and recovery training. This has no spiritual aspect, has no 12 steps. It's more cognitive behavioral approach, right? So learning um, ways to change your thinking in order to change behaviors. There's actual some physical activity like yoga, 12-step yoga. There's program called the Phoenix, which I love them. They do like rock climbing, they do runs, they do CrossFit, and the only requirement I believe is 48 hours of in recovery, and you can go to any of their free events. I love them. They actually just started back up in Miami, and they got rock climbing and running, and it's just a great way to stay active, but also it's the fellowship part of it that is also amazing to connect with other people. Medication supported, that's basically you're not going to get kicked out for using Suboxone or methadone. There's one called Medically Assisted Recovery Anonymous. So most people there are on these type of medications and they're supported. I think these were created simply because a lot of people were pushed away in their normal 12-step meetings. And so they started these so they could have a safe space. And then you got the harm reduction mutual aid, which is not necessarily people that are looking for abstinence, right? But also they are looking for support. So like harm reduction works is one of the one that I've heard of. And then all recovery mutual aid. Basically, what that is anything goes type of meeting. You can go talk about your mental health, your substance use, and it's kind of like a topic discussion meeting. Very helpful. You know, there's no steps. You don't have to identify as an addict or an alcoholic. Simply just say your name, and these are very common at recovery community organizations or collegiate recovery programs. Great meeting. Um, Again, these are some of the meetings there. I think I've attended most of these meetings, and yeah, you know what? I got something out of all of them. And it's just finding where you fit in, right? And just because you go to one fellowship or one meeting doesn't mean you could only go to that one. You could go to a bunch of them and just build your network of people to be bigger, right? And I actually encourage that, but because once if you go to treatment and once you get out, where are you going to find other people in recovery? Well, go to these types of support meetings and you'll find some more people so you can build your network. All right, I'm gonna skip through that. All right, so we talked about how there's a huge stigma with substance use, right? A lot of it comes in the language. Although we go to meetings and we hear some of the language, and it's commonplace to a lot of us that are already in recovery. If you go and say some of these terminology out into the real world where people are not so educated or knowing of recovery and substance use, it may have a huge stigma. Um, There's a study that showed that using the word substance abuser, right? People saw it as less likely to benefit from treatment and more likely from punishment, right? And then simply changing the terms to having a substance use disorder, right? Uh, Saw them as more accepting of treatment or willing that should get treatment and less punishment, right? So it's just some of the terminology, right, that kind of it is stigmatized outside of the 12-step community because these words don't really have that effect. If you've been going to meetings for years and you say addict, alcoholic on a regular basis, that's actually a positive thing, and that you love to hear that in the meetings. But if I go out into the community and I go identify, I say, hey, how's it going? My name's Tommy. I'm a alcoholic. People look at me weird. They're gonna clutch their purse. They're gonna they don't understand that, right? What they see in their head or what they see of an addict or an alcoholic is what they've seen on TV. And so some of it, like, well, that first question I asked at the beginning of this training is like, that's a homeless person. Oh, that's somebody that has no moral compass, right? Yeah. And so um, These are some things that to be mindful of. Absolutely, if you go to 12-step meetings, use these words with a badge of honor on that. But if you're outside of the meeting, and you are trying to get um, some buy-in and to lessen the stigma. Maybe you're talking to legislators and you want to pass a law, or you want to get some change done and support the recovery community. Well, I would suggest you use different language when you're talking to people. Um, that are in charge of making these laws, right? You want to get that foot in the door. Um, so using words like "I am a person in recovery," "I'm a person in long-term recovery," right? These are positive spins, meaning basically the same thing, but it's a positive spin. If I go and introduce, "Hey, I'm a person in long-term recovery," right? And that's kind of a very positive spin on the issue, as opposed to introducing myself as an addict to somebody that knows nothing about recovery or 12 steps, right? So it's a way to get your foot in the door and educate some of these people on what this is. Um, let me look at the questions here. So I saw a question from Brylia. What is smart recovery? Smart recovery stands for what is it? Slipped my mind, but it is a recovery program that does not use the 12 steps. It's self management and recovery training. You don't use the 12 steps. It's more learning skills about changing your thought patterns to change behaviors. Right there's a lot of them online. Depending on where what location you're at, they have in person meetings as well. Um, and it's another option for maybe 12 steps is not something that you're feeling comfortable in. You could try smart recovery, or you could do both. They're not mutually exclusive where you have to pick one. Um, all right. So, no wrong door. So, basically, what we're trying to teach in this recovery ally training is that there's no wrong door. If somebody comes up to you and asks for help for substance use or for wanting some help, we don't want to be, hey, I don't know where to go, and we lose that opportunity to help that person, right? Because when somebody reaches out for help, right, they can change their mind within seconds, minutes, right? They're like, hey, I need some help, and you come back to them 30 minutes later or the next day, you're like, oh no, I was overreacting. It wasn't that bad. I'm good, right? So to kind of when that person asks for help, to try to meet them where they're at and to provide that assistance as fast as possible. And it may be that you're not actually providing the direct assistance, but you're actually giving the warm handoff to who the person that can, or the organization that can, or the professionals that can, right? And so that's what this is really about, is to meet people where they're at. And so there's a continuum of care that it's in helping people, right? The continuum of care with promotion, universal, and selective, right? Those are from promotion really means that we provide this type of assistance to everybody. So if they go to school and there's a program that every single student has to go to, and then you have universal, right? Same thing with DARE program. If you go to the fifth grade in middle school or elementary, you're going to go through the DARE program. But then you get prevention. That's more reaching the folks that are at risk, right? And so you kind of weed out the kids or the students that maybe have had some behavioral issues or have different issues, that you could kind of like, hey, we want to tap on these kids because they have some risk factors. Then you have indicated. You get in trouble, you're gonna get referred to different programs. Then you got the treatment, right? Treatment. We have inpatient, outpatient, and then towards the end you got recovery support, which could include um, going to meetings, could include peer support specialists, could include aftercare, which a lot of treatment centers provide. Um, and I'm going to get a little bit into some of this right here. Now, this is ideal if insurance and money was not an issue, right? Which it is an issue, and that's why that it's um, the success rate of recovery is not as good as we would like it to be, is because not everybody has access to insurance and access to the money required to be in these types of programs for a significant amount of time, right? There's, substance use disorder addiction is a chronic condition that doesn't just go away. And so for us putting people to go to treatment for 30 days and say, hey, all right, see you later, you're good, that's not how it works. Ideally, we will want somebody to go to treatment for a significant amount of time and stay connected for years to ensure that person sustains that recovery. But that's not reality. But if we could, I would always encourage the person to go to the detox, of course, depending on what type of drugs they were using. Going to the detox, average of 7 days, then going to IOP, or sorry, intensive inpatient, right? Whether you're going to residential or a PHP, you're getting out of the community, out of the environment that led you to use, and you're getting, out of there for a little while, right? Then going to maybe inpatient, then you're going to PHP, then to IOP, which is outpatient, and then staying connected for months to years, right? Um, Inpatient is basically 24-hour care. You have medical assistance around the clock, right? Residential treatment, um, you live there with other people, typically around 30 days or more. You got the medical staff, but could be living away from the where the treatment is being done. IOP, typically you'll go for about 9 hours a week. You have a therapist, right? You get family therapy or couples counseling, right? And you're going 3 hours a day, 3 times a week. Um, and but you go back to wherever you're living, or you could be in a sober living situation, right? But this is you no longer living at the treatment center. And then to step down to regular outpatient, right, is usually around 3 hours per week. It's very similar, just going to the groups, the therapy, just at a less often, right? It's kind of like just slowly stepping down from the treatment. All the while, we're hoping that you're finding some outside, because guess what? Substance use disorder is 24 hours a day, and once if you're stepping down, you're replacing this with other things. Hopefully, with meetings. Hopefully, with therapy. Hopefully, with church. Hopefully, with different outlets to replace that. Some of the aftercare, some residential programs provide aftercare where they have alumni meetings where you go once every couple weeks or once a month. And then you have recovery support services, which include things called recovery community organizations, right? Which a recovery community organization is basically a one-stop shop for recovery. You can go there for meetings. You can go there and get a peer specialist, which a peer specialist is somebody in recovery that has gone through training to help you develop a recovery plan. Could be, hey, I want to get back to school. Hey, I want to get a job. Hey, I want to get a housing. Right? They help you with all these different things. And for most recovery, I think all recovery community organizations, you're going to get those services for free, right? So finding the local organization that can help you with that is very important. And they also can help you with treatment, and if you need to go to treatment, and get you connected to some of their partners. Recovery housing, always a good an option, right? Sometimes the living situation is not the best when getting out of treatment, right? And so going to a recovery housing or sober living could be a better option. A great one is Oxford House, which pretty much I think all 50 states have Oxford houses. But sober living is a good option if going back to where you were living is not the best situation. Collegiate recovery, right? Whether you're a young person or you're going back to college, these are amazing programs that support people in recovery that are a student. And so, if you are a student at one of these universities, you have access to these programs for let's say 4 years if it's a 4 year college, or maybe more if you're doing a graduate program. Some good ones. Texas Tech is amazing. Mississippi State is amazing. Rutgers. There's a bunch of different ones that are available. If you're going back to school, I would go to collegiaterecovery.org, and you could find your nearest collegiate recovery, and maybe that could be a determining factor as to what school you go to. Okay. So you have a loved one who is in their first 4 months of recovery, and the large family friend gathering is coming up. This is normally a drinking occasion. What are ways you can support this individual in their recovery? Right. So that's a likely scenario to happen if you got some friends in recovery or you're in recovery and you're going to a family function. You know there's going to be drinks there. You know there's going to be people encouraging people to drink. What are some things we can do to support whoever that is? All right. It's a little slow here with the comments, but as they come in, I'll share a little bit. I mean, this is a common thing in treatment. I see all the time, like people worried about going to a family function, and what are people going to think of me? How do I say no? Right? Just says make them a non-alcoholic drink. Absolutely, That's something that I always encourage, is to have something in your hand there so they don't get bothered that for a drink. They have something that may look like a drink, right? And so they don't get bothered about drinking. But if you see somebody that's trying to get them to drink, maybe you could step in the way and tell that person to back out, because this could be a life or death situation, right? This is not just about taking a drink or not. It's about, is this going to lead us astray or not, right? So having a plan and helping that person develop a plan before going to a situation like this. Maybe are they going to be going in their own car, right? Uh, uh, yeah, many choices of alcoholic drinks. Are they going in their own vehicle? Do they have a way to leave if they want to leave early? Right? Do they have their go to answer of how to say no to a drink? Right? A lot of people have different things. Some people say, "Hey, I'm on medication, I can't do it," or "Hey, some people are comfortable with saying that they're in recovery. Some people are not ready to share that yet, right? Some people will say, "Hey, no, no, I'm training for a marathon," or I'm, so some of these different answers, right? And if you see somebody pushing them, definitely want to step in the way, and hopefully you can assist so they don't feel like they're alone in dealing with the situation. And if they have to leave, if they want to leave, they can leave too, and save the situation, right? There's no requirement that we have to stay there for the entirety of the event. Randall says, I try to always take an accountability partner with me. That's always a great option. So they're not alone. So they feel supported, And if somebody is too pushy, you have somebody there also to back you up. Right? All great answers. All right. So how to talk to someone who may have a problem, right? So well, we're probably going to encounter this a lot, right? Especially if you're in recovery already, or if you're a family member or a friend. What you want to do is to try to do it when you are both sober, right? I know this may be a difficult thing to do if that person is very rarely not intoxicated, but trying to find the time where they're least intoxicated, maybe the morning, maybe figuring out what time is that they're going to be most likely to be sober or at least intoxicated. The sooner the better, right? Always have concrete and state observations, uh, concrete observations, right, and state facts, right. I wouldn't want to state anything about that person, but more about the behaviors, right? Distinguish between the person and the behavior, right? Consult a friend or family member. It's always good to have somebody there with you, especially if you're in recovery. Um, I wouldn't recommend going by yourself to go try to help somebody that may be using or drinking, right? Because it may be that you want to go and help, and it ends up that you get triggered, and you may be the one using. So going as a group, going as more than one person, so you're supported and able to deal with that situation. Encourage your friend to consult with a professional, right? Have resources ready to give your friend and set boundaries. Take care. So when I say having the resources ready, let's say you go and try to help that person, and that person says, "Yes, let's do it. I'm ready to go," right? And then you have no resources available. You say, "Hey, wait, hold on. Let me look this up. Let me find this. Let me call this place." Right? The time is of the essence. So if you don't have those resources available at hand, guess what? You may lose the opportunity to help that person. So, going into the situation, what's the local meetings in the area? What is the local treatment centers in the area? What are some areas that we can go immediately if this person wants to get that help, right? So have those in your back pocket in case that person is ready to go, right? You don't want to lose that opportunity. Set the boundary and take care of yourself, right? So when we say set the boundary, right, I think somebody mentioned it in the comments before of uh, telling that person you love them and you care about them, but you're not going to support anything other than helping them get into treatment, right? So you're not going to give them money. You're not going to support anything that supports their active use, right? And keep it that boundary, because if you break that boundary, they're not going to believe you, or so they're going to continue to try to get what they can. So setting that boundary and keeping it, and we do this to protect ourselves, right? Because it's hard not to take this home with us. It's hard not to take it, especially if we work in the field, especially if we see this on a regular basis, not to take it home with us, right? And so to try to set that boundary um, early on. So what not to do? Pressure them to do something that they don't want to do. If they don't want to go anywhere, if they don't want to, you're not fighting that person to take them anywhere, right? Um, just encourage them. If they're not ready, they're not ready. But you set that boundary and let them know. You don't want to argue or accuse, right? If you're a person in recovery, you know that doesn't work. It really in one ear, out the other, right? Lecture, moralize, or judge, right? We already have enough shame and guilt as it is. We don't need to hear more about that, right? It's just gonna bring us more down. To tell them, don't tell them that you're gonna give up on them, right? We don't never give up on anybody, right? We just want to encourage them and let them know if you're ready now, we'll take you. When you're ready, I'm here to help you, right? Don't downplay or shame, and don't take on any pain or struggle, right? And that's easier said than done. Taking on any pain, especially if it's a loved one or a family member. But again, setting that boundary so that you um, do not have to take anything on that um, is unnecessary, right? We're always going to care about these people. We're always going to care about our family members, and we can actually tell them we love you and we're ready to help you. If you're ready to help yourself, we can go and do this, right? And then somebody said this before too: be available to listen, right? If that person is ready to share with you, maybe you don't even have to say anything. Just listen to what they have to say. Maybe they've been holding on to something for so long, and they finally get to share it with you. And just listen. Don't no judgment. Just say thank you for sharing that, and how can I help you? Right? Because sometimes that's the most therapeutic thing is being able to let something out that you've been holding on to, and if somebody's willing to share that, take advantage. You can help that person just by listening. Let me see. Some comments here. Brelia says, "I always tell people at our group, if you have a bad feeling if someone is still in active addiction and they want to meet up with you, um, no, even if you have been in recovery for a long time, don't risk it." I completely agree with that. And just to be mindful of the situation. Each situation is different, but if you're going to help somebody, do not go by yourself. Take somebody back up. It is again, it's very triggering to be in a situation where somebody's actively using and drinking, and all these situations. So never, ever, ever go by yourself. So you can have backup, an accountability partner, or whatever it may be, so you can deal with it. Um, and sometimes the situation is you're not gonna it's not gonna be the right time. Sometimes it's not they're not ready yet, or they don't want to accept the help yet, right? And that's okay, right? How many times have we done that? How many times have we said we wanted help and then we changed our mind? How many times have we refused the help, right? We got to put ourselves back into that state of mind of like, hey, eventually we got that help, and so we'll be there regardless. um, let's see here. All right, so how to be an ally, right? How to be an ally, right? So if you are not in recovery, but you want to be an ally and support, these are some things you can consider. At a social event, have non-alcoholic options, right? Having these mocktails and other options, right? It's just we feel supported, right? I've been to a couple events where it was just alcohol and that's it, and you know, kind of was in and out of that event. But if you go to an event and there's other options, you feel like, okay, I'm not alone here. I'm not alone. Respect anyone's refusal, right? You don't need to know why someone's not drinking. That's none of your business. You don't need to say, hey, what happened? Hey, what's going on? It's none of your business, right? If they want to share with you, they'll share with you, but you don't have to find out why. Hey, you got a DUI? Hey, what's it? It's none of your business. You don't need to know all that. Um, Respect the wishes of people that don't use substances. Be aware of your friends' habits and behaviors, right? And be an active bystander. Basically, what that means is that if you see somebody that is in a situation where they're being uh, offered, or they're continuing to offer somebody something and they're not respecting the refusal, where you can step in. Um, if you hear someone pressuring someone to drink or use drugs, right? So step in the way. In the community, reduce the stigmatizing language, right? In the meetings, cool. Addict, alcoholic, love it. But if you're outside of that and you're around somebody and you want them to be more understanding and be less stigmatizing, maybe using words like person in recovery, that way it's a little more understanding. Educate others about recovery, right? Everything that you learned here, you can absolutely share. Very important, do not share anybody's recovery status unless they give you direct permission. It's not up to you to share anybody else's recovery status. If they give you permission, okay, but if not, do not share that of anybody. And if you have friends that don't use or friends that are in recovery, man, invite them to places. We like to be invited places too, man. And so uh, it's great to be invited. And sometimes I may say no anyway, but like we notice when people are not inviting us because of we know it's because of our recovery status. Okay. Right? This is a gentleman. This is actually more common than we think nowadays. They have mocktails and mocktail bars, sober bars, right, that are popping up. And it's just a social place where people can go and still feel safe. And not everybody that goes to these social bars or that drink mocktails are in recovery. There's a big movement of people that are just don't drink. I saw, I believe it was on Instagram the other day, that people are drinking the least ever in the United States. This is the lowest ever that people have drank in the United States. And so something's going on. Less people are drinking. People are drinking less, and I think that's a positive thing, right? For whoever it is. And so a little bit about harm reduction, right? We didn't get into this in this particular training, but harm reduction is definitely something that we support. It incorporates strategies that include safer use, managed use, abstinence, meeting people where they're at. Because of how strong the drugs are in the drug supply in the United States, people are passing away before ever hitting a bottom or ever getting to an opportunity to want to go to a meeting or to seek treatment. And so harm reduction is just teaching people how to be safe. Whether they're trying for the first time or they have a severe problem, these are ways to be safer. And then to live another day in case they do want to find recovery at some point, right? But it is absolutely something important, and it is a big reason why the number of overdoses has went down last year by almost 30% is because of harm reduction strategies and access to Narcan. And so we want to continue to do that. Also give access to treatment and recovery, but also harm reduction is part of it, prevention is part of it. We want to meet everybody where they're at. And so being able to do that, provide warm handoffs. So I encourage if you to know the local resources in your area, right? Know that the local meetings, know the local treatment centers, the local detoxes, so you have that ready to go if somebody is asking for help. Knowing the resources, and then taking a Narcan training or overdose prevention training, which we actually do. If you guys want a training, just reach out to us, and we could do it online, even if you're not in Miami area. We'll do it online for you. Happy to do so. And then getting access to Narcan. If you are in our area, we're happy to give it to you for free of cost. If you're in a different area, we will point you in the right direction to find it for free. And then some resources. Some of these are local to Miami, but the last two resources, treatmentatlas.org, that's Shatterproof Treatment Atlas. They can help you find a treatment center in anywhere in the United States, depending on what kind of treatment you guys need or looking for. It's a treatment locator, and you can go to their website, treatmentatlas.org, and they'll help you find a treatment center. The last one says peerrecoverynow.org, resource library RCO directory. Basically, you can find the nearest RCO in your area, right? That means recovery community organization in your area, which most of them are for free, and you can go and get meetings there or get a peer specialist, trainings. They have all types of stuff there. Love the RCOs. That one you can find the nearest one. And then if you are in the Miami area, thrivingmind.org, where you can literally find any type of treatment for substance use, mental health, for adolescents, and they'll get you situated. 988, of course, is suicide prevention line. And then the mobile response unit for South Florida is right there, 800 help you. And we're down to the end. So if you're ever interested in supporting our movement, we're always looking for volunteers with us. If you're in the Miami area, you can share our online events, our in-person events. You could make a donation, which let me put that donation information is right there. If you want to support our mission, that's how to make a donation. I'm gonna leave this up right here in the corner. There it is, and then I'll take this one. And then if you're also in the local area, we're happy to do the trainings, the health fairs, whatever. We'll do all that for free, and happy to support. Um, this is us on social media. If you haven't followed us already, please follow us on social media. This is us on Instagram, and what else do I got? I want to give a special thanks to Ramsden Recovery at Virginia Commonwealth University. Tom Bernard. He's actually the one that kind of started the recovery ally training, and I learned it from them when I was doing collegiate recovery. So they got lots of great information. I got to shout them out. And if you need anything on our end, right, that's our website, our email, and you could scan that and get all our information there. Um, and then last but not least, next week, a week from today, we're doing the 6 minute stories, right? So 6 minute stories. I saw some people in the chat that want to share. I'm going to reach out to you guys. But it is a week from today. This one's going to be about an hour. We'll hear people's story. You got to cut it to 6 minutes though. So get to the recovery part pretty quick. But we do this so we can get as many stories as we can and share the different pathways to recovery and finish off recovery month with a bang. So again, we're going to be live on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube. So we'll reach out for that. Other than that, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I saw a lot of activity in the chat. I appreciate you guys for joining us and chatting along and sharing this event. This live will be, it'll live on YouTube and it'll be on Facebook for a little while too. So if you want to share this with other people, this is still going to be available. If you found this information useful, you can still share that with people with the link from the YouTube or the link from the Facebook, and you can share that with people so they can get some of this information. Um, Other than that, I want to thank everybody. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you. Thank you, Brilia. You guys are awesome, and I'll stay on for a couple more minutes if anybody has any questions. But thank you, guys. Thank you, Joyce. While I'm still on, for the local community, I do want to share about what we're doing for the nightlife. We're distributing Narcan. We're doing trainings. This includes clubs. This includes, bars, gentlemen's clubs, music festivals. We don't really discriminate against anything. If you guys are in the nightlife, we want to go there and give you Narcan and provide the training. So reach out to us. You can go on the social media or email me at thomas@fn.org, and we'll be happy to get connected and get into any establishment. And then November 15th, recovery at the park. It's 12 to 4. We're going to be at Crandon Park. And so this is in Key Biscayne. We're going to be at the park, but if you walk a little to the right, there's actually a beach there. And so we're going to have tons of fun, food, games, fellowship, speakers, and music. So if you can't come out, if you're a local organization and you want to have a table there, let us know. We're happy to have you join us for that as well. We're located in Miami, yes, Aaron. Um, but thank you again. Thanks, Joyce. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Jess. Hey, I appreciate it. I love seeing everybody from all over. Appreciate you guys. Again, if you want to reach out to me, um, here's the information at the bottom, and we're happy to provide a training. If you're in a different state, we'll do it online as well. Hey, Aaron, yes, I'm very familiar with that. The University of Miami, we do at least 3 trainings a semester for the students and the fraternities, but we also work with Idea Exchange, which is based out of the University of Miami. They do harm reduction and needle exchange. They're doing amazing work. They're actually who I learned all about harm reduction and Narcan from. So I got to give them a shout out. Yeah. All right. All right, guys. Thank you. I'm gonna uh, close up shop now. But if you, oh, awesome, Shayna, recovery day in Maine. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, guys. You guys have a great rest of your evening. Happy recovery month. And please remember, next week we got recovery stories. So we'll be back at it again with the 6 minute recovery stories. Thank you. Take care.